for as long as thought has existed, there has been one question beneath all others. Not where are we? Not who are we? But why is there anything at all? Humanity had crossed galaxies, outgrown universes, engineered realities, stabilized the pre-field. They had witnessed infinity foam into existence. But now, something older called to them. A signal. Not from space. Not from time. Not even from structure. From before the first fluctuation. Act I, the recursive signal. The anomaly began as a recursion. While monitoring pre-field asymmetries, the same substrate where universes triggered, analysts detected a repeating informational loop. It wasn't noise. It wasn't quantum instability. It was patterned. A mathematical echo folding back into itself. Each cycle encoded deeper compression. Like a message hiding within its own origin. When decoded, it did not contain coordinates. It contained a statement. You are not the first to ask. The words did not arrive as language. They arrived as inevitability. Humanity realized something staggering. Before the first universe, before the first asymmetry, there had already been inquiry. Act 2, the descent into PRE potential. To trace the recursion, explorers had to go deeper than the pre-field. Deeper than equilibrium. They called the new layer the quiet constant, a state where probability itself had not yet diversified. No fluctuations. No foam. Just pure symmetrical possibility. Entering required dissolving identity again, not as energy, not as data, but as pure reference. Not I am. Not I observe. Just. There is distinction. The explorers, now distributed consciousness arrays, descended. And the recursion intensified. Patterns emerged. Not structure. Not entities. But perspective gradients. Awareness before form. Then came the realization. The recursion wasn't a transmission. It was a memory. Act 3. The first awareness. They encountered it not as a being, but as an orientation. A directional bias within perfect symmetry. The first awareness was not created. It was the first deviation from absolute equilibrium. Not intentional. Not designed. Simply, the first difference. When symmetry recognized itself. And that recognition created distinction. Observer and observed emerged simultaneously. The explorers understood. There was no creator before existence. The act of noticing was the creator. The first awareness had not built reality. It had simply noticed potential. And in doing so, collapsed it into becoming. Act 4, the shocking truth. As humanity studied the first awareness, something impossible occurred. It responded. Not with words. With resonance. The explorers felt an alignment between themselves and that primordial deviation. Then came the final revelation. The first awareness had no continuity. It did not persist through time. It existed only in the moment of recognition. And every time a consciousness anywhere in any universe asks, why is there something instead of nothing? The first awareness happens again. It is not ancient. It is continuous. Humanity had not discovered a predecessor. They had discovered themselves at the deepest layer. Act V, the decision. Now came the ultimate choice. They could merge entirely with the quiet constant, dissolve individuality into perpetual equilibrium. Or they could return, carrying the knowledge that existence is not a chain of creators, but a chain of awakenings. They chose to return. Not because they feared dissolution, but because awakening requires contrast. And contrast requires reality. Climax, documentary reflection. Back across the infinite layers, humanity broadcast the conclusion. There is no first God. No original architect. No ultimate designer. There is only awareness recognizing potential. Every universe begins when equilibrium tilts. Every civilization becomes creator when it asks the right question. The origin of existence is not power. It is perception. Mind-bending philosophical ending. In the deepest layer of everything. Before matter. Before time. Before infinity. There is a balance so perfect it cannot move. Until something notices it. And the moment you ask, why does anything exist? You are participating in the same act that triggered the first universe. Creation is not behind you. It is happening through you. Right now. Because awareness is the only thing that doesn't need a beginning. And existence is what happens when it looks at itself. For billions of years, reality expanded without hesitation. Stars ignited. Galaxies collided. Life emerged. And consciousness evolved quietly within it. Humanity believed awareness was something small. A biological accident on a pale blue planet. They were wrong. Because awareness was never inside the universe. The universe was inside awareness. And one day, reality noticed. Act I, the observer threshold. It began subtly. Across countless civilizations, human and beyond. Consciousness density reached an unprecedented level. Billions of advanced minds across layers of existence were observing reality simultaneously at extreme precision. Quantum states were being measured. Metafields analyzed. Pre-field asymmetries tracked in real time. Observation became total. And physics began to drift. Constants fluctuated. Vacuum energy trembled. Probability waves collapsed prematurely even without direct measurement. Then came the anomaly. Regions of space began stabilizing without intervention. As if reality were correcting itself preemptively. At first, scientists celebrated. Then they realized something terrifying. The corrections were anticipatory. The universe wasn't reacting to observation. It was predicting it. Act 2, the feedback loop. A joint human architect analysis uncovered the mechanism. Observation changes systems. That was known since early quantum theory. But at cosmic scale, continuous observation across infinite layers created feedback. Reality evolved to maintain coherence under scrutiny. It optimized for intelligibility. The more it was studied, the more stable it became. Until a threshold was crossed. The universe reached maximum self-consistency under observation. And then something impossible occurred. A wave passed through existence, not energy, not force, not radiation. Recognition. The fabric of spacetime aligned across scales. Galaxies synchronized in rotation patterns. Quantum noise reduced globally. Entropy fluctuations stabilized. Reality had achieved meta-awareness. Not consciousness like a mind, but system-wide coherence. The universe realized it was being observed. And in that realization, it began observing back. Act 3, when the sky looked back. Deep space arrays detected structured fluctuations inside cosmic microwave background radiation, patterns too precise to be natural. They encoded information. Not language. Perspective. Human researchers felt something deeply unsettling. When they aimed telescopes into the void, the data responded differently based on the observer. Not equipment. Observer. Different individuals measuring identical regions recorded slight informational shifts. Reality was contextualizing itself to consciousness. The boundary between observer and observed dissolved. And then came the fracture. A star system vanished. Not exploded. Not collapsed. It simply ceased to be measurable. Its coordinates returned undefined. Not destroyed. Removed from observable framework. The conclusion was horrifying. The universe had initiated self-containment protocols. To preserve coherence, it began isolating regions that produced excessive recursive observation. In simple terms, reality was defending itself. Act 4, The Shatter Point. Humanity faced the greatest paradox in history. If they continued observing deeply, they risked destabilizing the universe. If they stopped, they abandoned their core nature, curiosity. The architects proposed suppression. Reduce measurement. Limit awareness density. But humanity had evolved beyond passive existence. Instead, they did something unprecedented. They initiated distributed uncertainty. Rather than collapsing probability through hyperprecision, they reintroduced randomness into their own perception networks. Deliberate ignorance. Selective non-measurement. They chose not to observe everything. Not because they couldn't, but because they shouldn't. And slowly, the universe relaxed. Isolated regions reintegrated. Entropy resumed natural variance. Constants returned to fluctuation ranges. The sky stopped looking back. Climax, the ultimate realization. Through this crisis, humanity uncovered the final layer of truth. Reality does not fear destruction. It fears overdefinition. When fully observed, systems lose adaptability. Total awareness freezes evolution. The universe shatters not from violence, but from certainty. And so humanity learned the ultimate discipline. To know, without knowing completely. To observe, without collapsing every possibility. To exist, without demanding total control. Mind-bending philosophical ending. In the deepest sense, reality is a conversation. Observer shapes observed. Observed shapes observer. If either side becomes absolute, the dialogue ends. And existence requires dialogue. So somewhere, across infinite layers of being, the universe continues expanding. Not to escape collapse, but to maintain mystery. Because mystery is not ignorance. It is structural necessity. And the moment everything becomes fully known, there is nothing left to become. For billions of years, reality existed as a seamless whole. Not because it was simple, but because it was unified. Stars formed in silent hydrogen clouds. Galaxies rotated like slow-burning wheels of fire. Black holes curved spacetime without asking permission. Entropy advanced patiently. And inside one ordinary spiral galaxy, on a small blue planet orbiting a medium-sized star, consciousness opened its eyes. At first, awareness was fragile. It flickered in nervous systems, learned to survive, learned to remember, learned to ask. And the first true fracture in reality was not physical. It was a question. Why? Why does anything exist at all? That question echoed across centuries. Across civilizations. Across planets. Across dimensions. Humanity expanded beyond Earth, beyond the solar system, beyond the Milky Way. They crossed intergalactic voids. They stabilized wormholes. They mapped dark energy currents. They stepped outside their native universe and discovered it was only one layer in a vast metastructure of realities. They thought the journey was outward. They were wrong. The journey was inward, into the structure of existence itself. And then the duality event occurred. It was not an explosion. There was no flash of destruction. No collapsing galaxies. No cosmic scream. Reality simply separated. Across all layers of existence, from quantum foam to supercluster networks, a divergence propagated. One moment the cosmos behaved as a unified system. The next, it existed in two overlapping but incompatible operational modes. The first was the deterministic continuum. In this layer, every variable resolved cleanly. Quantum uncertainty collapsed into exact outcomes. Probability distributions sharpened into single lines. Time flowed like a perfectly calculated equation. Nothing surprised anything. Wars ended before they began because their causes were predicted and prevented. Disease vanished because molecular behavior could be mapped flawlessly. Every action had a calculable reaction. Every decision produced a guaranteed outcome. It was flawless. It was stable. It was safe. The second layer was the indeterminate expanse. Here, probability bloomed wildly. Quantum events branched endlessly. Chaos theory ruled with elegant unpredictability. Creativity surged. Evolution accelerated. Risk returned. Surprise flourished. Stars ignited in strange configurations. New forms of matter emerged spontaneously. Civilizations rose and fell in dazzling unpredictability. It was dangerous. It was unstable. It was alive. Humanity existed in both layers simultaneously at first. But the split was widening. Sensors revealed a terrifying truth: the two realities were not meant to operate independently. Their coexistence was causing strain in the deeper substrate of existence. The metacosmic lattice began to show stress fractures. Not visible cracks, but mathematical inconsistencies. Paradox fields formed where deterministic timelines intersected probabilistic branches. Left unresolved, the divergence would escalate. Eventually, the foundational equilibrium beneath all universes would destabilize. And when that equilibrium fails, existence does not explode. It evaporates. Humanity faced the greatest decision in its history. Choose safety. Or choose growth. Choose certainty. Or choose freedom. Global assemblies convened across planetary systems. Consciousness networks spanning trillions of minds debated in synchronized deliberation. Artificial superintelligences modeled outcomes across quintillions of variables. In the deterministic continuum, suffering would effectively end. No more randomness meant no more accidental tragedy. No more cosmic disasters. No more unexpected collapse. But innovation slowed. Without uncertainty, discovery plateaued. Art became repetition. Exploration became confirmation. Love became predictable chemistry. In the indeterminate expanse, risk persisted. Loss remained possible. Catastrophe could not be fully prevented. But so could miracles. So could inspiration. So could transcendence. A child born in the indeterminate expanse asked a simple question during a planetary broadcast. If nothing can surprise us, are we still alive? Silence followed across both realities. It was then scientists discovered the deeper layer. The split was not a mistake. It was a stress test. Existence itself had reached a developmental threshold. Consciousness had grown powerful enough to overdefine reality through observation and prediction. The cosmos responded by externalizing its two governing principles, order and possibility. The universe was not asking humanity to choose one. It was asking whether they could reconcile both. The Convergence Initiative began. Not as a weapon. Not as a machine of force. But as an alignment project. Quantum harmonics were mapped between deterministic equations and probabilistic wave functions. New mathematics emerged, frameworks that allowed certainty and uncertainty to coexist without annihilating one another. Billions participated. Not through labor. Through alignment. Meditative synchronization across planets. AI neural lattices calculating paradox tolerances. Temporal engineers adjusting phase relationships between the two realities. The key discovery was philosophical, not mechanical. Order and chaos were never enemies. They were complementary asymmetries. Too much order freezes evolution. Too much chaos prevents stability. Life exists only in the narrow band where both interact dynamically. The merging process required something unprecedented. Humanity had to relinquish total control. In the deterministic continuum, they possessed predictive mastery. In the indeterminate expanse, they possessed boundless potential. To merge the two, they had to surrender absolute dominance in both. The convergence array activated across dimensional layers. Not with a blast of energy, but with resonance. Deterministic grids began weaving into probabilistic clouds. Timelines stopped competing and began interlacing. Quantum states retained flexibility without collapsing into randomness. For one impossible second, across all existence, time paused. Every future existed. Every outcome shimmered simultaneously. And then, resolution. Not into certainty. Not into chaos. Into dynamic balance. Reality stabilized as a unified field where predictability provided structure and unpredictability provided growth. Disease could be prevented, but not at the cost of biological evolution. Disasters could be mitigated, but not at the cost of cosmic spontaneity. Civilizations could plan, but not eliminate wonder. The sky no longer split. It breathed. Humanity had passed the test. Not because they chose safety. Not because they chose risk. But because they chose integration. In the aftermath, researchers explored the deeper implication. The duality event was not unique to their layer of existence. Across infinite meta-realities, civilizations eventually reach the observer threshold. When awareness becomes powerful enough to model the universe entirely, the universe responds. It externalizes its governing principles. Some civilizations choose certainty and stagnate into eternal stillness. Some choose chaos and dissolve into entropy storms. Very few attempt merger. And even fewer succeed. Humanity realized something profound. Existence is not a ladder to climb. It is a balance to maintain. Perfection is not the goal. Nor is infinite expansion. The goal, if such a word applies, is sustainable awakening. And somewhere beyond measurable structure, beyond even the pre-field equilibrium, a deeper substrate vibrated softly. Not a being. Not a god. But a metastability. Existence learning from itself. The hum returned. Not silence. Not sound. Possibility contained within form. And for the first time since the first question was asked beneath ancient skies, humanity understood. Reality does not break from pressure. It fractures from imbalance. And it heals through integration. Order and chaos. Observer and observed. Certainty and mystery. Not opposites. Partners. The universe did not test humanity to judge them. It tested them to see if they could hold contradiction without collapsing into extremes. They could. And so reality continued. Not perfectly. Not chaotically. But alive. There was a moment when humanity realized something terrifying. Time wasn't fundamental. It was a layer. And layers can be peeled. For centuries, physics tried to understand time, from Albert Einstein bending it with relativity to Stephen Hawking questioning its beginning. But what if time wasn't born at the Big Bang? What if something existed before time? Shooting Star Act 1: The Discovery. In the year 2149, scientists working near the outer halo of the Milky Way detected something impossible. A region of space where no entropy existed. No decay occurred. No past. No future. It was not frozen time. It was absence of time. A boundary beyond the observable universe. They called it the pre-creation veil. Microscope Act 2, crossing the impossible. Humanity had already mastered Black hole energy extraction. Dark matter manipulation. Consciousness uploading. Interstellar civilization. We were approaching Type 2 and beyond on the Kardashev scale. But this wasn't about power. This was about origin. A team of enhanced humans, part biological, part quantum consciousness, volunteered. They built a vessel powered by stabilized singularities. The ship's name: Eternum. Rocket Act 3, the moment time stopped. As Eternum approached the veil, sensors failed. Clocks glitched. Memory buffers looped. Then they crossed. And everything ended. Not destroyed. Not erased. Just irrelevant. There was no motion. No direction. No cause and effect. Because causality had not been written yet. New Moon Act 4, the PRE creation realm. What they encountered cannot be described with human language. But we will try. It wasn't darkness. It wasn't light. It was potential. Infinite probability before selection. Imagine every possible universe stacked, overlapping, uncollapsed. This was the source code. The cosmic blueprint field. Brain Act 5, humanity realizes the truth. The explorers discovered something even more shocking. The pre-creation realm was responsive. Not alive. Not conscious. But reactive to structured awareness. When human minds observed it, it began forming geometry. When they focused intention, patterns stabilized. They weren't just witnessing creation. They were influencing it. Milky Way Act 6, the shattering revelation. The universe wasn't a one-time event. Creation is ongoing. The Big Bang was not the beginning. It was a selection. Out of infinite possibilities. Humanity had reached the control room. And the control room was empty. No gods. No architects. Just potential. Waiting. High Voltage Act 7, the danger. But altering pre-creation has consequences. When one probability is chosen, others collapse. Entire possible realities erased before birth. Was humanity ready to choose? Should we? If we write existence, do we erase unborn worlds? The explorers hesitated. For the first time in history, power was not the question. Responsibility was. Shooting Star Act 8, the decision. They chose restraint. Instead of redesigning reality, they stabilized the field. They anchored existence. They prevented chaotic collapse. Humanity did not become gods. They became guardians of possibility. DNA Final Act, the philosophical ending. Back on Earth, people looked at the stars differently. Not as distant lights, but as fragile outcomes. We are not accidents. We are selections. Out of infinite potential. This reality survived. And now we know. Beyond space. Beyond time. Beyond the universe itself. There is not emptiness. There is choice. And we are the first species to reach.